CNN Tonight with D. Lemon starts right now.
So I got to keep the place open while you gallivant around your whatever play and.
You see the look on my face right now?
Is that supposed to scare me? I ain't scared.
No, I don't want you to be scared. I don't want to have to
scared.
chase you. I want you to stand right there and take the beating.
Well, you know, I can't leave now because I have a job to do. You can get out of here, but you know, if you want to come over and settle this man to man, I mean, I'm right in the next studio.
Please, please.
Listen, seriously though, you said that they couldn't even come up with a name for it. Couldn't even agree on a name for it, but they'd had an agreement on how to solve it at least temporarily, and then this president said no. He says, I'm taking my marbles and I'm going home.
Right. Look, here's the real problem, okay? This is the scary part. You want to be scared about something. This is the easy part. Border protection, barriers, walls, fences, sensors, whatever you want to call them, that's easy. The rules of legal immigration, that's the trick.
That's the hard part.
Because the Freedom Caucus doesn't want people coming in here anymore. Those are the groups saying they're dirty. You know, our friend over there on Fox, he's actually not our friend. Dirty, they're bad for us, demonizing. That's the real problem, brother. We haven't even touched that yet. That's the real fight.
Yeah, well, we do talk about that a lot. We don't frame it as our, as you say, our friend on Fox. I still like to think people are friends.
He's not my
I
friend.
think that. Well, anyway.
You are what you show, my brother. You are what you show.
But you're right. Actually, doing proper immigration reform, a proper immigration overhaul is really, that's the hard part. The wall, that's why I don't understand people, I don't understand why people are so stuck on this wall. There's already fencing there.
Well, you heard Mick Mulvaney back in 2015.
Yeah,
you should use that sound tonight. I can't believe he's going to keep his job.
Thank you, Mr. Producer. As a matter of fact, we have it in the show, but thank you very much.
Don't hate, participate.
But seriously, it is the most simplistic, as Mick Mulvaney would say, unoriginal, and it shows by touting that, by putting it out there, it shows that you really don't have an understanding of what immigration reform.
But you understand people, and he knew it was an easy
You understand
sell.
slogans, and I guess people.
And he knew it would work. Keep them safe, simple, strong, but it was deceptive. And now there's a chance he gets hoisted on that petard, that you know, his own bomb, his own making, will blow him up on this. But it's going to take people on the right who know that this isn't the right path to stand up, and we haven't seen that yet.
I wonder if people realize, like, you know, the people who are the real big immigration problem, people who are coming to overstay their visas. I wonder if people know, like, those people make a lot of money.
Sure.
Right? And the people who come across the border eventually will probably end up making a lot of money. That's the American dream. But they start off doing jobs that don't pay a lot, right? But the people who come and overstay their visas, if you're talking about people taking money out of your pocket, if you want to frame it that way, I'm not saying that that's true, but those are the people who are actually taking more out of the economy than people who are coming across the southern border.
Depending on the paperwork that they have, some of them are high-skilled labor jobs. And you're right, so that would make people more susceptible in different parts of the job market. But look, again, there are fixes that have to be made. I mean, you know, these mass caravans are something that our current system was never set up to deal with. They can't handle the flow.
Right.
And it is political malpractice for them to not work on it. And this is all a distraction, this wall, and what a waste of time and money.
But we are America, and we can deal with any problem. And so we can deal with that problem, and we can do it in a humane way.
Yes.
I gotta go.
Well said, Don Lemon.
I won't say Merry Christmas, because I'll see you before Christmas.
You're the gift to me every day.
Yeah, I know you are. I know I am. So that's okay. You're welcome.
Thank you.
This is CNN Tonight. I'm Don Lemon. Today is the darkest day of the year, perhaps a fitting end to what may be the most unsettling week for the Trump presidency and the country as a whole, really. It's a question of leadership and growing chaos inside the White House. The administration under investigation. The stock market plummeting. The defense secretary resigning on principle rather than continue to serve this president. Let's see, did I miss anything? Oh, yes. We're less than 2 hours from a partial government shutdown, the third shutdown this year. Shutdowns are expensive, they're disruptive, and in this case, completely unnecessary. And President Trump, needs to take responsibility, or individual one, whatever you want to call him. Here's what he said this afternoon. somewhat cavalierly.
It's possible that we'll have a shutdown. I would say the chances are probably very good.
Well, he acts like a government shutdown is not a big deal. It is a big deal. A lot of government employees won't get paid. It's Christmas. As a matter of fact, I was out with my family. We were shopping this evening. It is Christmas. Most people want to do the same thing, be with their families, have some income to be able to buy Christmas presents. And tonight, the president's inside the White House, probably seething and watching TV, angry at someone or something. That's what he does. And then he tweets. He was supposed to leave for his Florida estate today to begin a 2-week holiday. The First Lady and their teenage son traveled to Mar-a-Lago without him. He stayed in Washington due to the shutdown of his making, by the way. President Trump is insisting that he won't sign a temporary spending bill unless Congress gives him $5 billion for a border wall. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer tried to talk him out of it in an Oval Office meeting just last week. But with cameras rolling, the president put on a show.
Okay, you want to put that on my...
You said it.
I'll take it.
Okay, good.
You know what I'll say? Yes. If we don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call, I will shut down the government.
Okay, fair
absolutely.
enough.
And
We
I am
disagree.
proud, and I'll
We
tell you
disagree.
what, I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck. I will take the mantle. I will be the one to shut it down. I'm not going to blame you for it.
So he wanted a Trump shutdown. Still, cooler heads did prevail, at least for a few days. The White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders even hinting earlier this week that funding sources could be found elsewhere, thereby avoiding a shutdown days before Christmas.
The president's asked every one of his cabinet secretaries to look for funding that can be used to protect our borders and give the president the ability to fulfill his constitutional obligation to protect the American people by having a secure border.
Well, Republican leaders in Congress thought they had a deal with the president to let everyone go home for the holidays and keep the government funded through February. Well, that's until Trump apparently got spooked by Ann Coulter and the outrage of right-wing media and blew up his own administration's deal.
It'll just have been a joke presidency that scammed the American people, enraged, amused the populace for a while, but he'll have no legacy whatsoever.
Ann Coulter? Is Ann Coulter running the federal government? President Coulter. Has a ring to it. Fox and Friends? President Fox and Friends. President Rush Limbaugh? Their comments were enough to get Trump to retreat to his original position. And now he's trying to blame the Democrats.
It's really up to the Democrats, totally up to the Democrats as to whether or not we have a shutdown. It's really the Democrat shutdown.
Wait, what did the president say again last week?
I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck. I will take the mantle. I will be the one to shut it down.
Okay, now it's Democrats. But last week he said it was his. The Trump shutdown. Remember, Nancy Pelosi named it. He was shocked in the Oval Office when she said it. Who's the real president? President Ann Coulter. President Trump will own the shutdown, plain and simple. He'll own the tanking stock market as well, since he took credit for its great run-up all year. But now it's nosediving. More than 400 points again today. He also owns the chaos in the turnover of his staff. So right now, Trump has no permanent chief of staff, no permanent attorney general. He needs a new defense secretary after General Mattis quit yesterday while publicly rebuking the president's military policies. Today is the Friday before Christmas. So every year during his presidency, before he left for his annual Hawaii vacation, President Barack Obama would hold a year-end news conference to defend his policies to the American people. In 2010, he talked about reaching across the aisle.
If there's any lesson to draw from these past few weeks, it's that we are not doomed to endless gridlock. We've shown in the wake of the November elections that we have the capacity not only to make progress, but to make progress together.
2013, Obama didn't shy away from taking responsibility for the disastrous rollout of Obamacare and healthcare.gov. But he also spoke of the honor of serving as president.
We get this incredible privilege for a pretty short period of time to do as much as we can for as many people as we can to help them live better lives.
And then in 2016, as he was preparing to leave the White House, Obama spoke about the gravity and power of the office of President of the United States.
I always feel responsible. There are places around the world where horrible things are happening, and because of my office, because I'm President of the United States, I feel responsible. I ask myself every single day, is there something I could do that would save lives and make a difference and spare some child who doesn't deserve to suffer?
A president actually taking responsibility. My gosh, I'd forgotten that happened. The President of the United States said the buck stopped with him, and he came before the American people at the end of the year to take responsibility and to reassure the American people that everything was okay. Wow, that's a president. I digress. President Trump tonight tweeting about his new name for an old obsession, the steel slat barrier, a design of our steel slat barrier, which is totally effective while at the same time beautiful. I don't even know what that means. So tall, so spiky, so medieval. Well, it's kind of like a fence, only it's sharper. Because of a fight over that spiky fence, wall, steel slat barrier, in less than 2 hours, the federal government will partially shut down. Thousands of government employees won't get paid. It's holiday time. What is it that President Trump said?
I will take the mantle of shutting down.
Take some responsibility right there, but then he backtracked. Merry Christmas, everybody. I want to turn right away to Phil Mattingly on Capitol Hill. Phil, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it's a busy night there, or maybe not so busy right now, but it's official. In less than 2 hours, the government will shut down. The president just released a video calling for border security. In it, he's using the same kind of imagery he did in the racist ads before the election. This is the part where he talks about the wall. Watch this.
The only thing that's going to stop that is great border security with a wall or a slat fence or whatever you want to call it. But we need a great barrier.
So I don't know why he's yelling, but so there's that video. But what's the latest? How did we get here, Phil?
Yeah, you know, Don, it's interesting. You mentioned the vibe here is so odd. I remember one shutdown or two ago when we were doing this, and I was texting back and forth with sources as there's this flurry of activity trying to stop the shutdown. The Capitol is essentially empty right now. Everyone has accepted this reality and hoping they can figure out a path forward at some point, perhaps tomorrow or further on down the line. When it comes to how did we get here, it's actually pretty simple. It's political incentives. And I think the president and the White House made clear, the president specifically, that they were going to have this fight that the president promised he was going to have, that he campaigned on, that he believed is his issue and his issue that the base really rallies toward. And they were willing to essentially short circuit a bipartisan deal that was reached in the Senate, put on the floor by Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, and passed unanimously. And then with allies in the House, move forward on a bill they knew couldn't pass in the Senate that had that $5 billion for the wall. So here we are. And essentially the reality is this. There are negotiations that are ongoing. Vice President Pence, incoming Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, Jared Kushner were on the Hill for a couple of hours tonight, shuttling back back and forth between offices trying to find a path forward. Let me take you behind the scenes on those negotiations. What I've been told from sources involved in them is there were proposals traded back and forth between that group of White House officials and Democrats, and the baseline remains the same. There are two potential problems here for any potential deal. The first is there is a lack of trust, not just on the Democratic side, but also on the Republican side, about what the president will actually agree to, particularly after an about-face earlier this week. So Republicans and Democrats alike are essentially saying, look, your White House officials can say whatever they want, but until the president tweets something or says something about what he would accept below that $5 billion number, we're probably not going to come to the table and agree to anything. The other is that Democrats, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, believe that they have the winning political hand here. You played the sound from the president in the Oval Office. They've been playing that and repeating that repeatedly. Their base doesn't want them to budge off of the money that they've committed to for border security and fencing up to this point. And therein lies the problem, and therein lies the reason I'm told right now that a quick solution to this is very, very unlikely, even though talks continue.
Wow. Okay. That was comprehensive and a lot. I hope everyone had their pads and pens at home. Phil, this will be the third shutdown this year. The first one was January 20th. The second one was February 9th for just one day, and now at midnight on 12/22. In all these shutdowns, the Republicans have controlled both houses of Congress and the presidency. So, I mean, what gives here? Why this at the last possible second? For 2 years, they've had the White House, they've had the Senate, and the Congress.
Yeah, so an interesting thing, I'm on a text chain with congressional staffers where the actual question today is, where does this rank in the history of dumbest shutdowns? Because there is often an understanding with both parties on Capitol Hill that shutdowns are a pretty bad idea and don't make a lot of sense. I think the reality in all of these shutdowns, there have been different reasons, there have been different dynamics at play. The biggest reason right now is just the uncertainty about where the president stands on things and the recognition that Republicans don't want to undercut the president. What I've been told explicitly, Don, is this: House Republicans will not move forward on anything the president doesn't explicitly support. That's a problem in the House, particularly when if you put what the Senate passed on the floor today, they would have the votes to pass it in the House. But they don't want to undercut the president. After what happened earlier in the week, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell will not put anything on the floor until they know where the president stands. And so as long as that dynamic remains, shall we say, ambiguous as it is right now at the moment, there's no quick end to this. As to why this keeps happening, look, this has been happening for better or worse for the better part of 5 to 6 years. These fiscal fights, people find themselves into these, let's say, box canyons. I will tell you that if history is any guide, the way this ends is one side gets bludgeoned to the point where they simply can't stand it anymore and they eventually give in. That is how these traditionally end. I think the big question right now, and this isn't from Democratic staffers, this is from Republican staffers, is given where the president stands on this, given the fact that he doesn't appear to want to move at all, if that moment will ever come, at least at any point in the near future. And that's why things are so up in the air right now.
Phil, listen, we have a lot of show, and I know my producers want me to move on, but can you just explain this to me, if you can do it quickly? So, right now, if the government shuts down, then they don't negotiate. So the government will be shut down for about a week, week and a half, till January 3rd, correct? And that's when the new, well, at least.
Yeah.
Then the new Congress starts January 3rd. Then there's absolutely no leverage for Republicans. So shouldn't the president and Republicans now be saying, okay, let's make a deal as quickly as we can before we have less leverage instead of digging themselves in?
The beauty of my position is that I don't have to give political advice to anyone here.
But do you understand what I'm saying? It just common sense just says the government will be shut down for a week and a half. People won't get a paycheck for at least then. And then if they come back on the 3rd, Congress takes over, or when the new Congress comes in, then Democrats take over the Congress. Then they have less political leverage on the right. It just seems to me like this is all for naught. It seems a fait accompli.
Let me just kind of relay what I've heard from Republican staff and senators and members of the House in both chambers over the course of the last 24 hours. They recognize the political reality of the moment. They recognize the reality of the dynamics in terms of what the next steps most likely are. What I've been told repeatedly is the only likely way out of this is for the president to get tired of this and essentially accede to what the Senate passed earlier, a clean stopgap bill for the next 6 weeks. But until that moment happens, and if this president, as he's made clear, he wants to fight, he's willing to have this fight, he's willing to keep the government shut down, if that dynamic doesn't shift, then nothing shifts. And it doesn't shift just because Democrats take power in the House. I think that's the concern right now I'm hearing repeatedly is if they get into this, and they will in the next hour and 45 minutes, how do they get out and when do they get out?
Yeah.
And there's no clear answer to that right now.
The theater of it all. It's not just Broadway. It's happening in D.C. too. Thank you very much, Phil. I appreciate it. More breaking news tonight. Sources telling CNN that President Trump has lashed out at his acting attorney general over revelations that came to light in the case of Michael Cohen. That's his former lawyer, who has been sentenced to 3 years in prison. I want to bring in now CNN's justice reporter, Laura Jarrett. Laura, good evening to you. What's going on?
Oh, hey there, Don. This story is really about how the president views the Justice Department. And here's what happened. On at least 2 occasions in the past few weeks, the president vented at his acting attorney general, handpicked Matthew Whitaker, about the Michael Cohen investigations. The president angered, in particular, by federal prosecutors referencing him in crimes that Cohen pleaded guilty to. According to multiple sources telling myself and Pamela Brown that Trump was really frustrated that prosecutors that, of course, Whitaker oversees as the acting attorney general, filed charges that made Trump look bad. Of course, those hush money payments to women surrounding the 2016 election. And now none of those sources say that the president actually directed Whitaker to stop the investigations. But these discussions between Whitaker and Trump really underscore the extent to which the president believes the attorney general should serve as his personal protector. And it gives a glimpse into the strange, some might say unsettling dynamic of a sitting president talking to the U.S. Attorney General about investigations he's potentially implicated in, Don.
So what exactly happened? Could you talk to me more? Take us deeper inside. What exactly happened here?
So, as I mentioned, there's at least 2 discussions that we know about. One after the special counsel charged Cohen over making those false statements that included those details of him talking to the president well into the election year about that Moscow Trump Tower project. The second is after Cohen is implicated more formally, maybe indirectly, but pretty clearly in court papers, and the federal prosecutors there laid it all out in Cohen's plea for those campaign finance violations, something that Trump and his attorneys fiercely maintain isn't an illegal campaign contribution. Obviously, experts disagree with that. And Trump pressed Whitaker on why more wasn't being done to control the prosecutors in New York, suggesting really that they were going rogue. Now, of course, we should add, while not confirming these conversations at all, the president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, did say this in a statement to us, quote, "The president and his lawyers are upset about the professional prosecutors in the Southern District of New York going after a non-crime and the innuendo that the president was involved." The Justice Department declined to comment about all of this, Don.
This seems to be the Jeff Sessions situation all over again, Laura.
Absolutely, absolutely. The president, on numerous occasions, had gone after Sessions for recusing himself and not controlling the special counsel probe. We all remember all the times he lambasted him on Twitter and in interviews. And in Whitaker, he had an attorney general who had publicly criticized the probe in TV appearances. Just this week, Whitaker refused to recuse from overseeing the Russia investigation. Now, until this week, Whitaker hadn't actually been briefed on the special counsel investigation, I'm told, but he was given a heads up about the Cohen probe, the Cohen guilty plea, I should say, the night before. And we learned that Whitaker will soon now get briefings on the Mueller investigation now that that ethics review is complete, Don.
Laura Jarrett in Washington. Laura, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Straight ahead, more on our breaking news coverage now. The partial shutdown of the federal government at midnight Eastern. I'm going to talk with Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon.
Inside Africa, unlocking the mysteries behind the continent you thought you knew. In Mauritius, a new generation reinvents an old neighborhood.
There has been a lot of relifting of the Chinatown, and we do hope it will attract more people.
Inside Africa, tonight only on CNN, in association with Zenith Bank.
So here's the breaking news. The federal government will partially shut down in less than 2 hours at midnight Eastern. The third shutdown this year. I want to talk about this now with Senator Jeff Merkley, Democrat of Oregon. Good evening, Senator. Thank you so much for joining us. Government shutdown is less than 2 hours away. You were on this show for the last two shutdowns. I hope you remember that, back in February and January. You blamed the president back then and the Republican Party. Take a listen.
This is completely 100% on their hands. They're in charge. They're deciding to shut down the government. Everything depends upon President Trump.
Who gets the blame tonight? Who gets the blame tonight?
Oh, well, certainly in this case, it's even clearer than before, because only one person in America has been bragging about wanting to shut down the government. Only one person last week, the man in the Oval Office, said he's taking responsibility. It's all on his hands. So it's clear for America. It's the Republican team. They still control both houses, and the president switched his positions after a deal was worked out and decided he's going to make some in his base happy by shutting down the government.
So, Senator, the other shutdowns this year lasted a day and then 3 days. But the president says the White House is prepared for a long shutdown. How long could this go, you think?
Well, it could go quite a while. Here's the thing. You will see an impact on national parks, but a lot of the stuff you're going to see is invisible. It'll be environmental inspections, food inspections, the internal machinery of the IRS, Social Security cards for new applicants. The checks will go out, but the cards might not get done. New applications for Medicare, for benefits, veterans benefits. There's a host of things, but I don't think you'll see a visible change because a whole lot of the government is already funded. We've already passed 5 of the 12 bills, and they've been signed by the president. And then you have the essential services on top of that. And so I very much think the president may well just say, I'm going to leave it like this until the new Congress comes in. The new Congress will then send him a bill, unlike now, because the House refused to take up the bill and send it. Send him a bill on his desk, and he'll have to decide whether to sign it at that point.
You know, I got to ask you, and I'm not saying that you should do this, but I just sometimes wonder, and I'm sure people do. Do you and your colleagues ever just think, well, maybe we should give this president his wall. He'll stop it with his tantrums and closing down the government over it, and people interested in governing can actually begin to do that, maybe do some governing. Is that ever tempting to you?
Well, I'll tell you, the thing is, you think about this $5 billion. What does that represent? That's 650,000 kids who could be in Head Start. It's 2 million meals a day for seniors. And this is real resources, and we have a responsibility to spend America's money in a smart fashion, not through some 4th century strategy easily overcome. And right now, the president has $1.35 billion from last year, of which he spent almost none of it for border security. So there's so much he could do for border security. He wants to set up a political battle in which he says, okay, this wall is border security, but it's a falsehood. There's much more cost-effective ways to provide border security, and we funded it, and he's sitting on the money.
I'll take that as a no to my question. No, you
Yes,
don't think about that. But that was a very good answer, and you explained why no. Thank you very much, and hopefully I won't see you before Christmas. So Merry Christmas. I won't see you again.
Merry Christmas, Don. Yeah. Take care now.
Yeah. Remember this?
I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck. I will take the mantle. I will be the one to shut it down.
Well, less than 2 hours to go to a shutdown, and the president is changing his tune.
Who am I? I sit in the heart, at the center, the crossroads of commerce. I am cultured, liberal, and friendly. I'm bold, pioneering, and equipped for the future. Know me yet? think you know Bahrain? Think again.
Judo is more than a sport. It's a way of life based on educational values. Through physical practice and mental preparation, the ultimate goal of judo is to strive for personal perfection and to benefit the world. The spirit of mutual cooperation. Jita Kyoe.
To be our client's trusted financial partner. Whichever industry you're in, MUFG has an experienced and dedicated team that understands the challenges you may face. We will be with you every step of the way, helping you to find the right solution. Your trust, your future, our commitment. MUFG.
I'm Natalie Allen. This is CNN.
The straight talk you need from your man in Washington, who won't back down. The Lead with Jake Tapper. Weeknights on CNN. All new African voices. Meet three avant-garde creatives channeling their inner selves through art.
I studied sculpture, a means to communicate really difficult things that we're going through in society. That's what the art's for.
African Voices, Sunday on CNN, in association with Glow.
I've asked Paula Newton to go on a short-haul adventure.
We are on a mission to find out how short haul is evolving, how it's changing.
By plane, train, or automobile.
No traffic, weather's pretty good.
The time-saving benefits.
Welcome to my office.
The other surprising perks.
You're part of the experience of flying.
Just laughing at the thought of you on all those short-haul planes.
Every week. In fact, a lot of times to fill in for you.
On the next CNN Business Traveler.
In association with Radisson Collection.
I'm Robin Curnow in Atlanta, and this is CNN.
President Trump trying to have it both ways. Tonight, he is getting the government shutdown that he has been calling for, but now he is trying to pin it on the Democrats. I want to bring in now Caitlin Collins, Kirsten Powers, and Scott Jennings. Good evening to everyone.
What are you laughing at?
I saw Kirsten, it was pretty funny. I saw it, sorry. Hello. So, Caitlin, caught you off guard there a little bit. Caitlin, 10 days ago, the president said that he'd be proud to, to own this shutdown, to call it. He said, I'll take the blame. In fact, we've heard him call for a shutdown last year, too. Take a look at this.
The obstructionist Democrats would like us not to do it, but believe me, if we have to close down our government, we're building that wall.
There are many gang members that we don't even mention. If we don't change it, let's have a shutdown. We'll do a shutdown, and it's worth it for our country. I'd love to see a shutdown if we don't get this stuff taken care of.
We disagree. I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck, because the people of this country don't want criminals and people that have lots of problems and drugs pouring into our country. I will take the mantle of shutting down. And I'm going to shut it down for border
But we
security.
believe you. Okay. So, Caitlin, now the president is shifting the blame to the Democrats. Can you explain that one to us?
Well, I think it's the least surprising thing ever that the president went from saying last week that he would own a government shutdown, something that made those two Democrats in the Oval Office, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, incredibly happy, to now he is saying it is on the Democrats that the government is shutting down, just as recently as in this video he tweeted tonight. Now, the question is, what changed? Why is the president here now? Because he went from saying he'd be proud to shut down the government because he had been hearing this criticism that he was growing increasingly sensitive to, that he was backpedaling on that campaign promise to build a border wall. But the actions speak a little bit differently than what the president is saying, because he's saying he's proud to shut down the government. Today, he said he's prepared to shut it down for a long time, but he sent his officials, the vice president, his incoming chief of staff, and his son-in-law and senior advisor up to Capitol Hill
Hill today to essentially reopen these negotiations, convince those Republican senators, Bob Corker and Jeff Flake, to move forward so they could have this, they could move forward to proceed and have this debate over what to do, because clearly they know the government's going to shut down. They do not want it to be shut down for long, because they are well aware that after a few days, the optics will turn back on them, and it'll look bad on the White House's part if it continues to be shut down for more than a few days.
So, Scott, the president initially signaled that he would sign the clean CR. A bipartisan group of senators passed that. And then conservative talk radio hosts got into his head, and then he caved. I mean, is this any way to run a government?
Well, it's no way to treat your friends in the United States Senate. I mean, the president has had the most success in his administration when he has remained allied with the Republicans in the U.S. Senate, and particularly in the leadership. And so by turning your back on them, now he's put himself in a position where he has to negotiate with Chuck Schumer. I mean, this whole deal right now is Donald Trump and Chuck Schumer. Any deal has to be between those two because they have to have Democrat votes in the Senate. And that's until January 3rd. At that point, Democrats get even more leverage because Nancy Pelosi takes over the House. So if he wants to do a deal, he's not doing it with Republicans. Now he's said, I'm going to do it with Chuck Schumer, and I guess we'll see how long it takes for him to figure out what he can accept from the senator from New York.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So, Kirsten, President Trump couldn't get his wall during 2 full years of basically complete Republican control of the government. How is that not a complete failure on his part? There was a deal on the table months ago.
Well, yeah, I mean, he walked away from a deal. That's right. I think that he hasn't shown this, so-called art of a deal that he has bragged about, that he's such the deal maker, because he hasn't been able to get a core campaign promise done. It is always important to remember, though, that Mexico was supposed to pay for the wall. So really, that's who he's supposed to be dealing with. He should be dealing with Mexico, trying to get them to pay for the wall, since he said that they would. Since he hasn't been able to do that, he wants Congress to pay for it. The Democrats have always said they're not going to pay for it. It's a stupid policy. It's not. It's at minimum $18 billion is what the CBO has estimated it would cost. We can assume that would be the least amount that it would cost, because the government doesn't usually come in under budget for something that just absolutely is not necessary. I heard you talking earlier about, what is obvious. People can go under the wall. There are other ways, to get into the country, and you can fly on an airplane. There are all sorts of different ways to get into the country, and $18 billion on a wall that's not going to work and that isn't necessary isn't something the Democrats are going to go for.
Okay, well, I want to ask you about this picture. Let's put this picture up. It is the president at the Resolute desk. What appears to be the bills that he's signing, and he tweets that he's canceled his trip to Florida. Is this meant to instill confidence in the American people that he is keeping busy and that he's actually doing his job?
Well, I think it's supposed to work to his messaging that this is it's the fault of Democrats that the government is shutting down. And look, he's still at work, still in the Oval Office, willing to cancel his trip to Palm Beach, Florida, that he was supposed to leave for this afternoon in order to stay here and work. But of course, Don, the reality that even White House officials will admit, and surely Republicans on Capitol Hill, is that we could have had this debate and this fight several days ago. Nothing has changed there except that the president changed his mind because that criticism got under his skin, that he was backpedaling on that promise, and that is when he said, I'm not going to sign this short-term spending bill, and that is what has gotten us to where we are now. Now, the president could have said this several days ago. Of course, some of the options that are being floated now, like $1.6 billion for the border wall, is something that has been proposed in the past. But we are here now because the president changed his mind. That's essentially where we are now. Now, this morning, White House officials did not feel confident that there was any kind of a plan B here. Right now, they at least feel hopeful that they're working on something that right now, even though the government is about to shut down in just an hour and a half almost, they do feel confident that there are people, staffs on Capitol Hill, working to try to get some kind of compromise on the table so that they can bill it as a win for them, bill it as a win for those Republicans. But it certainly is not how we were starting the week, and this is not how Republicans, many whom have already gone home, thought this was going to go.
All right, everybody stay with me. The president lashing out at House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi today after Pelosi and Republicans wouldn't have the votes for a border wall. Well, we're going to take a look at that relationship and what it means for the next Congress.
is Vicky. Vicky might not look like a crime-fighting superhero.
But with Ring, she is. Tell us how you did it, Vicky.
Okay. I was home alone at night when I got an alert from Ring there was somebody at my front door. Then I saw this guy, and I said, "Hey, you! Get off my property!"
Then Vicky shared that video with her neighbors, keeping everyone safe.
It was easy, really.
Typical superhero.
Be like Vicky and protect your home with Ring. Go to ring.com and these fine retailers.
This is CNN.
Traveling is not just about seeing places with the most likes or getting iconic photos.
Amazing.
It's about finding a city's DNA, meeting people who share its secrets.
Yeah.
It's about making discoveries that wow you and make you feel like a child again.
Yeah, got it.
It's a world of wonder. Now go and see it on CNN in association with Turkish Airlines.
A show-jumping, show-stopping event.
Elite riders compete in the first ever Global Champions playoffs in the beautiful city of Prague.
Tactics and strategy add to an exhilarating experience fans won't soon forget. Watch as teams and individuals compete for the ultimate prize. The passion, the energy, the season finale showdown. CNN Equestrian Global Champions Prague Playoffs. Tonight, only on CNN.
President Trump apparently on a rampage. Sources telling CNN he lashed out at the acting attorney general over allegations about him that came to light in the Michael Cohen case. Back with me now, Caitlin, Kirsten, and Scott. So let's talk about this. Caitlin, is the president shopping for an attorney general who will shut down this investigation? Jeffrey Toobin called it a feature, not a bug, in terms of what he's looking for.
I think that's certainly what critics of this White House think, and I don't think it's unusual that they drew that conclusion because his primary problem with Jeff Sessions was that he had recused himself and couldn't be in charge of the Russia investigation. Therefore, President Trump thought it had gotten out of control. White House officials will continue to insist day in and day out that the president is not going to fire Robert Mueller, and he doesn't want to bring the investigation to an end, though it's clear he wants it to come to an end on his own. But you can guarantee that the president's pick for the attorney general is going to have a fight for this when he does go to be Senate confirmed, because, of course, that is going to be a question that a lot of senators feel pressured to ask. Are you going to either recuse yourself from this investigation, or do you feel the need to shut it down, or will you protect it in that job? Clearly, the president drawing some issues here with Matt Whitaker, who had to inform him of this plea deal with Michael Cohen that was coming his way. And I was actually here at the White House just about an hour or so after we found out about that, after Michael Cohen had appeared in court. And the president came out to the cameras when he was leaving the White House to go somewhere. And that was the first thing he talked about, unprompted, without any of us shouting any questions at him. Yet he brought up the Michael Cohen thing on his own. It has been something that has plagued the president since April. And one of the things he is the most sensitive about, people close to him say.
So, Scott, at this point, should the president be wary of further interference and stop talking to the AG about the investigation, full stop?
Well, I mean, he's going to have to get updates on the investigation because it appears to me the thing is getting close to the end and there's going to be more news that needs to be delivered to the White House. Now, you could argue that that news needs to be delivered to the White House counsel and then to the president. But the reality is this thing's almost over, and the fact that he has nominated an attorney general person, Barr, basically guarantees that Mueller cannot be fired at this point. I've been hearing the president was going to fire Mueller for almost 2 years now. That hasn't happened. So I really think that he's upset about what's happening, but a lot of what's happening is because this thing is getting close to the end. The real question is, if you believe some of the reporting out there, the spring, February, March, when this comes to an end and the report goes up, what does his government do with that report? Do they sit on it? Do they send it to the Congress? How does it get made public? To me, that's the real next flashpoint here in how he handles the investigation, not whether he's going to fire Mueller, which I've never believed he was going to do.
Kirsten, let's talk about James Mattis now. That resignation letter which shocked Washington and the world. Is it just a matter of time before Trump tweets something about Mattis now?
Yeah. I mean, it's he usually cannot control his grudges against people, even if he manages to do it for a few days. And it wasn't just that he resigned. It was what he said in his resignation letter that was so shocking. It was a complete indictment of Donald Trump's foreign policy, and there was nothing in there about even saying that it was a pleasure or an honor to serve the president. He talked about serving the military and serving alongside, other people in the military and serving his country, but he never talked about serving with the president and that being an honor. So I think it was a real slap in the face to the president, and I've never seen him in the past be able to absorb that kind of slight without lashing out.
I want to play something that we heard from the president today about the House-passed funding bill that included money for the wall. Watch this.
We were told that you would never get the House to vote. Well, we were able to get the House to vote. And it wasn't that we did it, they did it. They were incredible. So I want to thank, in this case, House Republicans, because what they did was rather incredible. When Nancy Pelosi said, you'll never get the votes in the House, we got them, and we got them by a big margin, 217 to 185.
When she said that, Caitlin, it really stuck with him.
Clearly, the president does not take lightly to criticism, and he said in his Twitter feed that he didn't feel that Nancy needed the need, or that there was no need for her to apologize for what she said since they did get the votes in the House. But things changed this week, and from when Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer were sitting there in the Oval Office with the president when he said he'd be proud to own a government shutdown, and she essentially dared him to bring it to the floor because she said he didn't have the votes in the House. At that time, people on Capitol Hill will tell you they probably didn't have the votes in the House, but then after things changed this week, they saw the president being very clear he was not going to sign that short-term spending bill that didn't include the $5 billion for his border wall, and then the House added it and they passed it. So of course that has a lot to do with it as well, but you do see the president not missing an opportunity to hit back at Nancy Pelosi, essentially saying he's correct here, even though of course that passed in the Senate, or passed in the House. It is dead on arrival in the Senate. Those talks on Capitol Hill today that involved the Vice President, Jared Kushner, and Mick Mulvaney, and all these Republicans involved, no one even mentioned the number $5 billion to that wall because they know, and people inside the White House know, they are not getting $5 billion for this wall.
So, Scott, sum it up for us here. What is next? You've got back and forth. Well, Nancy Pelosi saying, I don't have the votes. Turns out he did have the votes. Now you have him calling her out. Now you have a partial government shutdown happening. So now what?
It's very simple. He's got to pick up the phone and call Chuck Schumer, and they got to hash it out. Because the Republicans in the Congress will not undermine the president. They'll go with whatever deal that he says to go with. And Schumer has to deliver some votes. I mean, yes, Pelosi was wrong, by the way. Trump's right. She just totally blew that, and he was right about that. But it's irrelevant because the whole ball game is between Chuck Schumer and Donald Trump. So we'll see how long he wants to let it go. This gets a lot harder, by the way, after January 3rd.
You heard Flake earlier saying that some Republicans didn't want the money either, right? You're saying Republicans, but you think they'll still go along with him?
I do. I do not think the Republican Party will undermine the president. If he can make a deal with Chuck Schumer on whatever terms that he can accept, I think they will end the shutdown. It gets a lot harder after January 3rd. He needs to do it before the Democrats take over the House, would be my advice.
Yeah. And I think that's very smart advice. Thank you all. I appreciate it. Believe it or not, something did get done in Washington today. The president signed into law a bipartisan prison and sentencing reform bill. Our own Van Jones has been one of the bill's champions, and he joins me next.
Africa's largest wholly owned metro fiber network? The sky is, well, it is rather unlimited. Up is upbeat, seamless. Up is quick and easy access to all your favorite apps and entertainment. And there is no downside on a network committed to upping your fun and productivity. Get quick on your uptake, my friend, and offset the odds in your favor. Because on Glow, up isn't an upgrade. It is the upgrade. Going up?
Upgrade to a 4G SIM for free and get 125% bonus. Also enjoy unconditional 25% data bonus non-stop on all auto renewals. Dial *777# to choose a plan.
It's a combination of expertise and passion for the story.
If you've been there, you've covered the story, you know what's going on.
CNN Today with Michael Holmes and Amara Walker, Sunday through Thursday.
Well, President Trump stepping on his own victory at the White House during a bill signing ceremony for the bipartisan criminal justice reform law. He used the appearance to shift blame on Democrats for the government shutdown. But joining me now is Van Jones, who was a key player in getting the law over the finish line and who was on hand for the signing today. So he may have stepped on his own message, but we're going to talk about it now. Van, it was a long time. Good evening to you. It was a long time coming.
Yeah.
But you got to be happy because, and not a lot of people can say that in Washington tonight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, for a decade now, there's been a growing understanding that we're spending too much money on prisons. We're hurting people. We're putting people in for too long. Judges are quitting because they're mandated to give these super long sentences, and something needed to be done. And Obama took things as far as he possibly could, but couldn't get a bill across the finish line because of Republican opposition, et cetera. We decided that we were not going to give up, that we were going to continue the fight that started under President Obama, not let the Trump administration move away from some of those principles. And ultimately, because of Jared Kushner's incredible leadership, his father went to prison. He understood these issues. We were able to pull together a very unlikely coalition that won. And as a result, people who are behind bars right now have reason to be happy. 100% of the people behind bars in the federal system can stay out of trouble, come home a little bit earlier. About 3,000 are going to come home in January because they are serving outdated sentences on crack cocaine charges. There's half of them can take classes to get job ready, come home even earlier. 100% of the women are not going to be shackled anymore when they give birth to babies. No more juveniles will be locked in solitary confinement. The list goes on and on.
Okay,
and on.
okay, all right. So don't eat up the time because I know it's good. I'm being serious because I want to talk to you about more stuff. And I want to play this clip from today's signing. This is you talking to the president. Okay, here it is.
And when you're trying to help people on the bottom, sir, I will work with or against any Democrat, with or against any Republican, because there is nothing more important than freedom. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Listen, I hear folks, you hear folks, you're on social media, you see the comments, you have taken a lot of grief for working with this president, but you are making no apologies.
None. Hey, listen, you say, I got beat up on social media. People in prison don't get a chance to see social media because they're locked up, they're being brutalized, they're away from their families, they're suffering. I can't worry about what somebody says on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, by definition, you're not in prison. And so we have to be able to put first things first. You and I both know it took both political parties to get us into this ditch. The Democrats and Republicans were passing crazy laws, putting mostly black people in prison for decades. And it's going to take both political parties to get us out. And so this struggle, nothing's more important than freedom. No politician, no political party, no political rhetoric, nothing is more important than freedom. That's what the Civil Rights Movement was about. That's what the Revolutionary War was about. The Civil War was about, women's rights, LGBTQ. This is about freedom. And we can fight about everything else. And I told the president when I was there, I said on immigration, on climate policy, on foreign policy, we're going to fight. But where we agree, especially to help people on the bottom, we should work together. And I'll never back off of that. And I don't see how anybody can justify leaving people to suffer in prison. Just because the president is bad on 99 things, if he's right on one thing that's going to help people, we should work on that.
All right, I'm out of town, Ben, but I got to say that is a good Christmas. No, don't apologize. I'm just going to say it's a good Christmas for a lot of folks. It's a Merry Christmas for a lot of folks. Thank you, Van Jones. And Merry Christmas to you, too, as well, and your family.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Just over an hour to go before the government faces a partial shutdown. It would be the third one this year. How did we get here?
you have one of those video doorbell things?
What?
It's called a Ring.
What?
Ring video doorbell means I can see you and this guy.
What's up there, Slick? Smile for the floodlight.
Knuckleheads.
The Ring video doorbell and floodlight cam. See, speak, or sound an alarm right from your phone. Learn more at ring.com.
Brazilian art is for everybody. Art is everywhere. To go to all these contemporary art museums and art galleries has been a complete joy, an amazing experience.
She is Mark Dixon, a British troublemaker.
One of the things I really love about it is the passion of the people. There's so much creativity, and if they can't do it in an art gallery, they're doing it on the walls.
And it's just another way of displaying art. Cities like Rio, like wiping it off.
Overall, it was looking at how important the community and the people are in Brazil to what the contemporary artists are displaying to the world right now. It's not always just about Brazil, but you can always kind of get a flavor of Brazil in it.
It's always so colorful. No matter what time frame, it's always a splash of color somewhere.
Meeting a Marian obviously was a highlight of this trip. I know that not everybody can come to Brazil and have a Marian with them, but I really think that everybody should come to Brazil at least once and check out that art scene.
www.bebrazil.com.br.
I'm thrilled to compete at Mubadala World Tennis Championship.
I am looking forward to see you in Abu Dhabi.
I'm George Howell. This is CNN.
All new African Voices. Meet three avant-garde creatives channeling their inner selves through art.
I studied sculpture, a means to communicate really difficult things that we're going through in society. That's what the art's for.
African Voices, Sunday on CNN, in association with Glow. CNN takes you inside the world of horse racing.
On this month's Winning Post, we're seeing out 2018 from the Hong Kong International Races, also known as the Turf World Championships.
Winning Post, today on CNN, in association with Longines.
I'm Nick Robertson in Aden, Yemen, and this is CNN.
This is CNN Tonight. I'm Don Lemon. Our breaking news, a partial government shutdown just 1 hour away. And there is nothing stopping it now. The House and the Senate, they adjourned until noon tomorrow. And the president does not have the money he wants for his border wall. Last week, President Trump said he was proud to own a government shutdown in the name of border security. But now he is trying to put the blame on the Democrats. One source with direct knowledge of the negotiations say there is no quick end to this. This will be the first time in more than 40 years that the government shuts down 3 times in 1 year. And there is more breaking news tonight to tell you about. Sources telling CNN that President Trump has lashed out at Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker, upset because prosecutors who Whitaker oversees implicated the president in the Michael Cohen investigation. And the Supreme Court upholds a ruling to block President Trump from implementing new restrictions for asylum seekers. It was a close ruling, just 5-4, with Chief Justice John Roberts siding with the liberal judges. Could he be the new swing vote? There's a lot to talk about. Phil Mattingly joins me now from Capitol Hill with the very latest on the midnight shutdown. We're getting close, less than an hour, Phil. The government's going to shut down. Where do we stand right now?
Well, there are negotiations, and they exist, which, given the current bar for success in governance, is better than it was 6 hours ago. But here's the reality, and I think this is what's important to point out. Those negotiations have not come anywhere near a breakthrough, according to sources that I'm talking to. And the reality on the ground here on Capitol Hill is, look, you can look behind me. There's nobody here. Everybody has gone home for the night. They accept the fact there'll be a shutdown in an hour, and the way out of this is very unclear. The talks behind the scenes, I'm told, tonight are still very far apart. White House officials that were up here, Vice President Mike Pence, Jared Kushner, incoming Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, were trading possible ideas with Democrats, all of which have been rejected up to this point. The baseline from the Republican and White House side of things, somewhere around $2.5, $2.6 billion in border security money. Democrats making clear that is nowhere near where they're willing to go. So the reality remains, Don, that as we enter into this shutdown, there is no deal in sight, and President Trump's demand for the wall, the $5 billion for the wall, remains what's dictated reaching this point, and it's where Democrats are not willing to come anywhere close to if they want to reach any type of agreement to end this.
My goodness. So I said in my open that they adjourn until noon tomorrow, but that doesn't mean that that's when a vote will happen. Do you know when the next vote could be in the Senate?
No, and I think that just kind of underscores the moment we're in right now. What we were told from senators that were leaving earlier tonight is they were told they would get 24 hours notice before any vote were set to occur. So in that ground, even if a deal is struck over the course of the early morning hours tomorrow, that they're not going to be back to vote anytime soon. I think the bigger problem here that I've heard from both Republicans and Democrats is they don't know how this ends, right? The political incentives are aligned to the point where this is longer than it is shorter. Democrats have no incentive to move right now. They feel like they have the winning hand here. They've seen the president say that this is his shutdown. He owns this shutdown, and they don't believe there's any reason to make a deal. From the White House perspective, they're in it now. The president promised that this was the fight that he wanted to have. The president promised this was the shutdown he wanted to have. If they blink, he would be caving. And if you saw what happened earlier this week when Senate Republicans tried to put a bipartisan deal on the floor and the president ended up undercutting them later on, that doesn't have a great track record here. So what people are saying right now on the Republican Democratic side who are working on these negotiations is essentially buckle up. This is going to take a while. We don't know when that next vote will be. We don't know when an agreement's going to be. We don't know if there's going to be any breakthrough on any negotiations anytime soon, Don.
Wow. It is awfully quiet there. I only see Phil Mattingly and a couple statues behind him. That's the only folks who are awake right now. Phil, thank you very much. I want to bring in now Susan Glasser and David Sanger, the author of The Perfect Weapon. Good evening to both of you. Well, Susan Glasser and David Sanger, they're in Washington and they're awake, and here we go. So, Susan, you have a new piece. It's titled The Year in Trump Freakouts. And you write in part, you said, when we look back on 2018, it may not be to recall all the crazy things that happened when Donald Trump was president. A year from now, it may appear